George Pickens is a Dallas Cowboy. Holy shite.
So it's been 2 days after the George Pickens trade, and I really wanted to talk about what this trade means for the Dallas Cowboys. I think it really means a lot of things, and I know the popular thing, or like I like to say, the lazy thing is to probably hate on the Dallas Cowboys, say how it's going to blow up in their face, say how George Pickens is going to crash all the time. But if you look at it from a football standpoint, this is exactly what the Dallas Cowboys needed, and they had a really good draft. The drafting players like Tyler Booker are going to be integral on the offensive line at right guard. Second round drafting Donovan Ezaraku had 16.5 sacks last year at Boston College. This is going to be a weapon on the defensive side opposite Micah Parsons, and Shavon Ravel, cornerback out of East Carolina, among other moves. They had a really good draft, but now this makes their offseason be one of the best in recent memory for the Dallas Cowboys, where they're usually not aggressive. This year, Stephen Jones said they were going to be selectively aggressive in their approach.
But we're going to look at everything we can. We're going to be selectively aggressive.
And they've been that, and this trade really proves that Dallas is serious about improving their team. In the past years, we probably would have heard, oh, we like our guys and things of that nature, but they knew that Jalen Tolbert being wide receiver 2 was not good enough, not going to cut it. They didn't want to wait and see how Jonathan Mingo was going to be, even though they just traded for him before the trade deadline last season. They knew that they had to improve their wide receiver room, and this move definitely does that. You have CeeDee Lamb, who's a top 3 wide receiver in the league, who you know you can move around as a Z receiver, and really he's very versatile in how he's using the Dallas Cowboys offense, and we'll see how Brian Schottenheimer, new head coach, and also he'll be calling the plays, how he incorporates his system. But now having George Pickens as an X receiver who can just go up and catch those 50-50 balls, my guy is better than your guy type of plays, I think that's going to be huge and integral for this Dallas Cowboys offense going forward in a division where you have the Philadelphia Eagles, for example, who have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, and even the Commanders trading for Deebo Samuel and having, of course, Terry McLaurin already. This adds to really being, in my opinion, a top 5 wide receiver duo in this league already. I know you have the Miami Dolphins, you have the Eagles, like I mentioned, of course, the Minnesota Vikings with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, the Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, even a new duo for the Rams, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. To an extent, the Detroit Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, but I think that you can really incorporate this Dallas Cowboys new wide receiver duo with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens being in the top 5 already, and it's going to be a wait and see type of thing on how they mesh and feed off of each other, but I think they really will have a good dynamic because they already have a friendship that's been established, and now I think it's safe to say that George Pickens is going to be playing with the best quarterback of his career so far, play with guys like Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, of course, he was good in his days in Seattle, but now he's really more so of a game manager, no offense, and Justin Fields, who still has potential, but let's be real, Dak Prescott, who was a runner-up for MVP in the 2023 NFL season, he's by far the best quarterback that George Pickens will be playing with. And I know a lot of people don't like Dak because he's on the Dallas Cowboys and things of that nature too, but when healthy, he is a top 10 quarterback, guys. I'm not going to argue with y'all on that. That's a for sure fact, and I think that that's going to present a great opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys, for not only the Dallas Cowboys to have great success this upcoming season, but also George Pickens individually in a contract year. But that being said though, guys, before I dive deeper into this George Pickens Dallas Cowboys breakdown video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications. You know I post about here videos with the NBA, NFL, Marvel, DC, pop culture, all things like that. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Swaggy Russ, at TikTok on Swaggy Russ 02 for more shorts, clips, things of that nature. And we can just talk about sports in general on there as well on social media. And with that being said, let's talk about what this George Pickens trade means for the Dallas Cowboys. So if you look at the Dallas Cowboys receiving numbers from the 2024 season, outside of CeeDee Lamb, there's a precipitous drop off for sure. CeeDee Lamb had 101 receptions out of 152 targets for almost 1,200 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. But if you look at the second highest targeted receiver on the team, it was Jake Ferguson, the tight end, who I think is one of the better tight ends in the league. But CeeDee Lamb literally had 66 more targets than a Jake Ferguson. So it was safe to say that defenses were really able to key in on defending CeeDee Lamb, who still was able to get his against most teams really in all matchups, but still it made it more difficult for the Dallas Cowboys because they were very one-dimensional. His offense was very stagnant and archaic at times. And I think now adding in not only a new system, but kind of revives with Brian Schottenheimer, who was the offensive coordinator but didn't call plays, but now him being head coach and play caller, I think with them incorporating George Pickens is going to work wonders for that team. Because if you look at George Pickens in his 3 seasons so far, and we got to also remember George Pickens is only 24 years old, just turned 24, so very young as well. In his rookie year, he had 52 receptions for 801 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. But if you look at the 2023 season in particular, he really went off. He had 63 receptions on 106 targets for 1,140 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, and last season having 59 receptions for 900 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. So despite the mid to below average quarterback play, he has still been able to get his at a very high level. And if you look even further into the stats over the last 2 seasons, George Pickens is tied with Justin Jefferson, yes, Jets, with the most 20+ air yard catches in the NFL. And being paired with his new quarterback Dak Prescott, has had the most passing yards on 15+ yard go routes and has had the second most attempts on 15+ yard go routes. George Pickens has had the most receiving yards on 15+ most yard go routes and second most catches on 15 plus go yard routes. So if you look at those statistics, for sure that complements well and really perfectly with what a Dak Prescott needs in terms of an outside receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb. So it's going to make opposing secondaries lives very hectic trying to guard them, and good luck trying to guard CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens in press man coverage, because they're going to be able to eat for sure. And I mentioned that too high safety look that a lot of teams throw out nowadays. If they do that now to try to protect themselves in coverage, there's going to be less people in the box. So that opens things up for the Dallas Cowboys running game, which was for sure one of the worst in the league last year, even though Rico Dowdle had a really good year and now they don't have him. Obviously he's in Carolina, but Jadon Blue, the rookie running back from the University of Texas that they drafted in the 5th round in this deep running back class, I think he has the potential to have a Bucky Irving type of impact on that roster. Not necessarily in play style, but the type of weapon that he can be for the Cowboys offense. I think that provides a similar type of comparison to what Bucky Irving did for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. And Jadon Blue can certainly add that with the type of skill set that he has. With his 4.3 speed, his ability to catch the ball at the running back position, and being able to be a home run type of runner out of the backfield. And they also signed Javonte Williams, who has been a little injured the past couple of years, but I think he'll be a solid complimentary back, and they drafted Phil Maffa as well. Miles Sanders, not gonna lie, I'm not sure if he makes the team, but you never know. I think the Dallas Cowboys, they'll for sure have a running by committee type of approach. So complementing that, which is really the most successful type of way in the league, unless you have a player like a Saquon Barkley or a Derrick Henry or even a Christian McCaffrey in the 2023 season and a Josh Jacobs from last season, those type of running back who are number one. But typically the running back by committee approach has worked. You look at the best success in the league, in my opinion, the past couple of years between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. That's an example of being very dominant in the running game. And I'm not saying the Cowboys are going to have that type of success in the running game, but I think it'll be way improved from what it was last year. I mean, rotating I don't want to say washed, but definitely not in his prime version of Ezekiel Elliott. Didn't even throwing Dalvin Cook out there for the 49ers game when they really should have just had Rico Dowdle be the number one back from the jump. I think it'll be better for sure overall in this upcoming 2025 season. And also to mention, I know a lot of people haven't paid attention to the Cowboys moves in a microscope because, like I said, the popular thing is to hate on them. They don't necessarily know, I bet, who their offensive coordinator is. It's Clayton Adams, who was offensive line coach for the Arizona Cardinals, who also helped the Arizona Cardinals have a top 10 running game last season, by the way, with James Conner. I think a lot of people didn't know that. So I'm saying schematically and from a personnel standpoint, it'll be improved in the running game. But also I want to mention their wide receivers coach in Junior Adams, who has developed the likes of Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and other players like that. I think that he's going to be able to not only help CeeDee Lamb, who's already one of the best receivers in the game, but help with George Pickens as well too, be able to help develop him and improve him even more in terms of mentality standpoint and be an innovator to his success on the Dallas Cowboys. So I think really this George Pickens trade makes it clear that the Dallas Cowboys have a true plan to improve the team and they want to win. Now, I'm not going to say anything like they're going to win a Super Bowl or anything like that, but don't be surprised if they win the NFC East. Don't be surprised if they win a playoff game. And I say this because I think a lot of people who know this, there's been no repeat division champion in the NFC East since the 2004 season, and it just happens like that. I don't know why it's like that. Of course, the Eagles won it last year, so we'll see what happens. And I know the Eagles, they lost some players for sure on that defensive line too. So like I said, it's a wait and see type of approach, but I think the Cowboys will be improved. And I think also another thing, a lot of people have already penciled in the Dallas Cowboys being third in the NFC East even after this move, and I would be careful with that because if you look at the games against the Washington Commanders between the Dallas Cowboys, first and foremost, the Cowboys won that game in Washington in the first matchup earlier in the season, and then in the second matchup, Jaden Daniels played some of the first half, and we know in the second half Marcus Mariota played, and Marcus Mariota helped win that game at the end, but they barely won that game as well too. So if not for that game-winning play, the Dallas Cowboys would have swept the Washington Commanders in a down year when the Cowboys went 7-10. So I think a lot of people have to pay attention to that. I know the Commanders have added pieces on the offensive line like a Laramie Tunsil in a trade from Houston and a Josh Connerly from Oregon, and they added Deebo Samuel, of course, and they drafted Trey Amos, and they have Marshawn Lattimore for a full season. But I would be careful to put the Dallas Cowboys underneath the Commanders, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won a division, one of those two teams, because like I said, recent memory shows that the Eagles aren't going to repeat because there hasn't been a repeat champion. But don't let your hate for the Cowboys or whatever you do for the Cowboys make you not analyze the actual football team and say that, wow, it actually is improved, because they had a really good draft, and adding George Pickens is going to help this receiving room, but this team overall, and make things easier for a Dak Prescott, because we know at times when he feels like he has to press and force the ball into tight windows, that's where he can be very shaky and he ends up turning the ball over, whether it's on interceptions or things of that nature. But adding a George Pickens is really going to help him even more, and it helps your quarterback who you just paid $60 million before the 2024 season. So I think that this trade is really good. Y'all let me know in the comments down below how y'all think George Pickens is going to be incorporated and how he's going to be with CeeDee Lamb. A lot of people will point to the attitude and things of that nature of George Pickens, but I will say this, he for sure needs to mature in areas, can be throwing a defensive back's face mask on the ground after a play, things of that nature. We're getting demonstrative on the sideline, but he's going to be around one of the greatest leaders that he's ever been around in Dak Prescott. A lot of people I know, he's a polarizing player in terms of people who don't like the Cowboys, but Dak is an outstanding leader, and he's going to be able to, I think, have a good effect on him and the team overall. And like I said, with him being with with CD. CD is the type of guy who leads by example. I think that that'll even help Pickens more in terms of his leadership and his maturity too. CD Lamb is going to help him even more, and they're going to learn from each other, and they're going to improve each other. Iron sharpens iron to a T, I think will be in that report for sure. So like I said, y'all let me know in the comments down below. I think that this George Pickens trade means that the Dallas Cowboys are automatically improved last year. I think it means that this could be a 10-7, 11-6 team, maybe even more if they overachieve more than that. I'm not going to say too much on that because we still have to see how Brian Schottenheimer is as a head coach. We have to see how the whole defense is and all of that, even though I do think that the team overall has been improved. But I think that this means that the Dallas Cowboys are instantly improved, and George Pickens is going to be able to flourish. And this is a contract year for him, so I know Dallas Cowboys fans for sure don't want this to be just a one-year rental. There probably won't be any contract extension talks until after the season. And if you want to talk about contract extension talks with the Cowboys right now, they want to see Michael Parsons get that deal ASAP before talking about anyone else, like a George Pickens, but not only him, Deron Bland, Jake Ferguson, Tyler Smith, players like that. But if it works out how a lot of people will expect and how Dallas Cowboys fans hope it will, then this is the perfect number 2 receiver that you want to have not only for the 2025 season, but for 26, 27, 28, and potentially beyond. So like I said, this George Pickens trade makes the Dallas Cowboys improved for sure. But yeah, like I said, let me know your guys' thoughts on this trade. Man, we're getting closer and closer to the NFL season. This upcoming Wednesday, we have the NFL schedule release. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a really good time. We're going to be able to see the potential matchups that we have coming soon in the next few months. September, preseason in August, and then September will be here before we know it. OTAs, training camp, things of that nature. So it's just a beautiful time, guys. And I'm just looking forward to some football. We, of course, have the NBA playoffs going on right now. And the NBA is my favorite sport, I'm not going to lie. But I also do love football as well, too. And I'm looking forward to it being back on our television screens, and it will be before you know it. So I know we're all excited for that. Make sure I hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. More content is on the way. More NBA, NFL videos, all things of that nature, guys. Like I said, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Swaggy Russ. Know that you are loved, you are blessed, God loves you. He has so many great things for you guys. Don't overthink that. Don't overcomplicate that. You are here for a reason and a purpose. Jesus loves you guys. I love you guys. Y'all be blessed and y'all have a good one.